Hello everybody, this is TechHut. I primarily use Linux, but unlike a lot of other people who use Linux, I don't have a problem booting into Windows here and there if I need to use it. And depending on who you are and what you need to do, I understand that sometimes you might need to use Windows. Including myself, in this review actually came at a good time because I have to run an application called ArcGIS Pro, and I'm doing a midterm for a class in college, and it was a lot easier just to throw Windows on here instead of doing what I usually do and running the application in a virtual machine. So I don't necessarily dislike Windows. There are things about it I do dislike, and we are going to be getting into those later in this video, but Windows 11 has been officially launched. I did use the developer version of this for about a month and I reported my initial review on that, but since doing that video there has been a lot of fixes, a lot of bugs that were worked out that I initially complained about, such as the weird thing with Windows Explorer and a couple other things. So this is going to be my updated review. So with that, let's go ahead and jump onto the system, check out Windows 11. I'm going to show you some of the things I love about it and some of the things that I just am not a fan of. Alright, so here we are on the desktop, and the very first thing I want to point out is how awesome this terminal application is here. Beautiful, it works perfect. I've been using this actually quite a bit to manage like my media server and a couple other like Linode instances and things like that. And it's awesome. The tab management is fantastic. We can open up either just the typical, well, not typical, but PowerShell, or the typical command prompt through here, depending on what you actually want to do. And with this, one of my kind of general complaints with Windows is actually installing applications. Of course, you have the Microsoft Store, but generally to get things that aren't there, you're going to have to go to a website, download an exe. But you guys directed me to winget, which works absolutely awesome. If I type winget, it's going to bring up all the commands. I could do winget search and like VS Code, for example, and then it's going to search the repositories and pull all the different applications that actually match. I already installed a VS Codium through here, and overall just using this is an incredibly seamless process. It's just another example. If I search, let's do FileZilla, this is going to bring up all the FileZilla results, and then I could actually install it through here. So if I just wanted to do install, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab the proper package name. So let's grab this, paste that in there, hit enter, and then it's going to go ahead and begin downloading FileZilla from the proper repositories. So there we are. It's going to start the package install, and depending on the actual type of application, it might open up a couple prompts, but with this you can see it was successfully installed, and then I just do FileZilla, and here it is. It's really as simple as that. And this is where I'm gonna start getting into the UI now. And right now I'm using the dark theme overall, but there are still a lot of applications that don't pull that. FileZilla is one example, but then you could say this isn't a Windows application. Of course, it's not going to be able to pull the dark theme, or even if they tried to force it, it wouldn't really look that good. But then, like Windows key and R, this is the run prompt. You can see it still has those rounded edges in the title bar and all that, but it's still on that white theme, and that goes with some other applications that have obviously not gotten any updates at all, such as we have Notepad here, which again, this is another one of those older system utilities, and this doesn't have the updates. It actually has like the old drop-down menus. One thing with these and a lot of the menus and the selection things, I just don't think this looks good, this like skinny rounded selection. It should be like this entire section to be selected, but that's me starting to get really picky here with some of this stuff. So back on this terminal, it's awesome. For example, let's go ahead and SSH into my media server, log in, type htop, and then you can see my htop running for that. Overall, this terminal has given me a very smooth experience, and if Microsoft ever did something crazy and offered it to people on Linux, I would probably use it. With that, actually diving a little deeper into the actual UI, if we look down here, we have that centered start, or the centered icons and start menu and all that. And I do like that. If I'm on a KDE Plasma desktop, this is generally the look I go for. I love the start menu, the pinned applications here. You can see I haven't really customized this. Another complaint, which this is what Microsoft has been doing since Windows 8, is incorporating ads within the system. These don't look like ads, but they're ads. Like this a photo editor right here, that's not included. For example, if I were to click on that, you could see it's actually going to begin the installation process of that application. So it's not actually on your system, but that's just their way to kind of push some things on you. Granted, again, I'd probably almost rather have this method than it just to be like automatically downloaded and included. But this is just for people who might think that those are already on there. Just click it. Oh, that's the photo editor. Open that up, and then that's what they end up using. Obviously, we could go all apps, and you could actually see the photo editor right there. It's a pretty UI when it comes to actually installing this way, but it's not something I would want to do. Obviously, this pinned area is very customizable. If I wasn't going to be switching back to Linux in a week or two, I would probably go take the time and actually pin a bunch of different applications and really make this my own. Down here, you have recommended, so you have some recently added applications, as well as some files you've recently manipulated. And then if I go ahead and hit more, you could see a lot more of those recently added applications that I have on the system. And then of course we have search, and one thing that's kind of silly is up here on the actual like start menu, this type to search is just kind of a shortcut. It doesn't actually do anything. It's more of a link, because if you click on it, it's going to close the start menu and open up the search pane. And I mean, it's quick enough, it doesn't really matter or get in the way at all. It's just, I mean, they kind of could have done that a little bit differently, maybe link these together somehow or not separate them. But I do kind of understand what they're doing. It's kind of like having two start menus that just look different and provide slightly different functionality. But with that, beside that, we have our workspaces. And this is actually pretty cool. You can see we have, if I click on that, it will open up. This is desktop 1. I don't have another desktop. But for example, let's just say, let's open up a couple applications. Let's open up a couple instances of that. Let's open up this, and let's open up this. And then we could go over to a new desktop, and you could see how it put that in there. And then we could open up something over here. And then if I hover over it without clicking, it's going to give me the option to go in between the two desktops. And when I just hover my mouse over, it gives me a preview of those two desktops. And alternatively, if I go ahead and click on this, it's going to open it up in this view. So then I can hover over this and actually see all the different applications I have. And then, for example, I could go ahead and click on this and drag it down, drop it onto a different desktop, and manipulate it that way. And if I go ahead and close out a desktop, what it's going to do is bring all the applications to the only desktop that is available. So now I got to kind of clear this out. Right here I have the store open, and the store works perfectly fine. The only thing I've really installed through this is Microsoft or Spotify Music. It's very easy just to click install and be good to go. I haven't gone too deep into this because I don't use any of this. Most of the tools I use on a daily basis are already on the system at this point. And another thing too, if you're looking for my opinions on like the Xbox application and gaming and all that, I haven't even had the time to game. I'm not a gamer, so I'm not really the person to get input on that. But with that, one thing I do use is File Explorer. File Explorer is beautiful. I love these icons. And it does a pretty good job under quick access of giving you the folders that you've been in recently. So here you can see these are all video projects. This is the video I'm currently working on. And then under these recent files, I have quick access to anything I manipulated in the last couple of days. Overall, I really like the File Explorer in here. The UI is beautiful. The one thing, and I said this in the last video, I really wish it had tabs. But at the same time, even in Linux, I tend to open up multiple windows and drag things in between windows. I just like to see everything at the same time. It's probably bad habits that I've brought over from Windows when I used it on a full-time basis like 2 or 3 years ago, but that's just me. Now another thing, I'm not going to dive too deep into this because we went real deep in the first video we did, and that is the settings. The settings is absolutely beautiful. First looking at it, the first thing that comes to my head is like those Chinese Linux distributions like Deepin, Cutefish OS, the Jing OS. This looks a lot like their kind of settings menus where you have the categories here on the side with the icons, and then it will open up over here your things going forward. But the thing is, this is done right. It's beautiful. The organization is very nice. Most of the things you're going to need are in here, so you're not going to need to start rummaging through the older control panel. which by the way is still in here. So if I search up, oh, see, right now you can hear me typing on my keyboard. Sometimes search just doesn't work, or the type to search. It's silly. They need to incorporate those into one start menu. But if I search control panel, you can see it opens up control panel. And again, with the white background or white theming with these older applications that just hasn't been integrated properly. So it just feels like Windows 11 overall isn't done. It's great, it works good, but there's just little things here and there where you're like, this is not a completed project. And this right here is one of those examples. See, if I go over to appearance and personalization, we don't have too many things. We have taskbar, file explorer options, and fonts. So they're really slimming this down and putting things in here, but it seems like for the things that they just couldn't fit in here very well, they went ahead and kept it in the original control panel, which I generally do not think is the best idea. Here we have our Windows Update. We have all of our basic settings. Again, not going to dive too deep into this because we've covered this a lot. But if we go into like personalization, for example, it's really easy to switch between some of these predefined themes. We have our taskbar settings here. You can see the one thing I have disabled is chat. Pretty sure that's Microsoft Teams. I'm not using it. We have Discord over here, which, by the way, if you're interested, you could drop into our Discord server if you would like to chit chat. And then if we go over here to apps, this is a big thing. If we go over apps and features, somewhere around here is where we can select our default applications. So default apps and Firefox, this is what I'm currently using. You can see I'm going to have to go through and change a lot of this. Firefox automatically made the HTML and HTML stuff, but if I want Firefox to do PDFs, I'd open this and it says, before you switch, Edge is a fast secure. So I go switch anyway, Firefox, okay. And then I would have to do that going forward, which ironically, the one thing that Microsoft Edge is really good for is PDFs. So actually, let's go ahead and change that back. So other than that, there's just some other little things I like. If we go over here, the notification panel is really nice. I like the calendar. Overall, it is a pretty clean system, and even being somebody who primarily uses Linux on a daily basis, it hasn't really given me too many problems other than some minor little glitches here and there. In fact, it's been really easy just to open up applications like this and just be able to use it, especially for school. But with how much I like Linux, the little workarounds I do for things like that is generally worth it. And with Microsoft, you obviously have those privacy concerns. The main reason I'm logged into an account right now is because I wanted to try out the actual Microsoft Store. But before I did that, it was an offline account. I deselected all the trackers and everything like that. The only thing I kept on was the location services so I could properly pull my weather. Speaking of weather, that reminds me, we have this widget pane over here. I haven't really been using it too much. I mean, I'll occasionally kind of scroll through here to read some of these news headlines and peek at the weather, even though I have a window right here. So I don't really use this all that much. Another thing with this that would be a lot cooler if there was third-party widgets, but all we have is this basically, which is from Microsoft. So you can't really do too much with it. So with that said, that's my thoughts on it. It's really not too bad. I mean, if this was like a Linux desktop environment with all the same UI and everything like that, people would absolutely love it, and it would be one of the most popular Linux desktop environments out there. That's just how it would be, because the UI and everything's really nice. Last thing I forgot to mention that I really like is the snapping overall. Especially, you saw in the intro of this video, I have this really long ultra wide, and it's really nice to do either a 3-section snap, 2-section snap, or the entire thing snap. It's really easy. And then you see here on these actual windows, if I right click on the maximize, it brings up the tiling control. So it's really easy to tile things. Here we can see OBS. I could put Discord right here, and then I can throw Firefox over here. You saw I was just making sure I was grabbing the right package for the video, which this right here, this winget.run, is a pretty cool site. So I'll go ahead and link to this down below. Overall, I mean, it's a fairly positive review I have for this thing. I have limited complaints, and honestly, I do like it a little bit better than Windows 10. primarily for the UI stuff and just how it looks. If you're somebody who does not care about that, upgrading from Windows 10 to Windows 11 honestly is probably something that you should kind of hold off on. But if you really want these new UI elements and you just think it's beautiful, go ahead and do it. Unless if you're on like an AMD system like I am, I'm actually getting a performance hit because I am still waiting for those AMD drivers and those patches to go ahead and fix that, so I can bring you guys an awesome benchmarking video comparing different Linux distributions. But still waiting. I'm still waiting. And probably as soon as that's fixed, that's when I'm going to refresh the system, run the Windows benchmarks, and then jump back onto EndeavourOS GNOME, because that is too dear to my heart to cheat on for too long. So with all that, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I was not able to benchmark this quite yet because I'm still waiting for AMD to update their drivers and for them to fix that whole issue. But there'll be a benchmarking video coming soon of Windows 11 versus Arch and a Debian-based system, probably Ubuntu, and Fedora. It's going to be a four different things going on. So do make sure you're subscribed and you ring that bell so you do not miss that video. With that, I'd love to thank our YouTube members and Patreon supporters. We have Mitchell, Valentino, Sledgehammer, Phil, Mac, Kyle, Timo, Anthony, and Chris Curtis. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. And thank you to all the other Techie and Techie Plus members. With that, like always, anything referenced in this video will be down below so you can check it all out. Have a beautiful day and goodbye.